And thank you. Hospitals across the country are filling up as the Delta variant spreads. You just heard Suzanne mention that. Overnight, the FDA amended its emergency use authorization to recommend a third dose of mRNA COVID vaccines. That's from Pfizer and Moderna, specifically for people with compromised immune systems. So happening right now, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is meeting to formally vote on this move. The committee, by the way, is made up of independent doctors and researchers and makes recommendations directly to the CDC. ABC's Rena Roy has more on this.
As the Delta variant tears through the U.S., some help for those who are having trouble staying safe from it. The FDA authorizing booster shots for immunocompromised people, saying a third shot of Pfizer or Moderna will offer added immunity.
For certain people with immune problems, 2 doses wasn't enough. And so the third dose is necessary for them to get the same high level of protection.
Officials saying for now, other fully vaccinated individuals are adequately protected, but they're keeping a close eye on the data.
We follow what the efficacy of the vaccine is, and we're simultaneously preparing to be able to give people that additional dose.
The U.S. seeing more than 130,000 new cases in one day, the highest single-day total since January. Nearly 80,000 Americans now hospitalized, most of them unvaccinated.
This Delta variant is nothing to mess around with. If you're unvaccinated, you're playing Russian roulette.
Children's Hospital of Alabama reporting an increase in pediatric cases. Doctors sounding the alarm with more American kids like 12-year-old Brody Barnett, who's unvaccinated, ending up in the hospital.
Seeing all these kids on ventilators walking down the hallway, it's pretty scary. It ain't nothing to joke with.
Mississippi's hospital system overflowing. Officials now using a parking garage as a field hospital.
I feel like we're beyond a disaster. You know, when we're setting up a hospital in a garage,
more and more cities are starting to require proof of vaccination or negative tests for most indoor activities to help stop the spread. San Francisco and New Orleans are the latest to announce those rules. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
By the way, you can get free Six Flags tickets for participating in a vaccine clinic in Dallas County. The 3-day event is happening at Mount Rose Church. The clinic will offer the Pfizer vaccine to anyone 12 or older, but remember, people under the age of 18 do need a parent's permission in order to get a shot. This all kicks off tonight at 5 p.m. and runs through Sunday. All right, news of this booster shot for some people leaves us with a ton of questions. To help answer them, I'm joined by Dr. John Brownstein, epidemiologist, Chief Innovation Officer at Boston Children's Hospital, and an ABC News contributor. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Okay, so I started listening to the ACIP meeting before coming into this arena to do the newscast. Can you kind of catch us up? Who are these boosters for, and who is considered immunocompromised?
Right. So the FDA has looked at available data for a small group of vulnerable patients. And these are generally those that are potentially cancer patients, transplant recipients, people with HIV, people on immunosuppressant drugs. It's a small group, about 3% of the population. So this is not widespread need for a third dose. And in fact, we should stop calling it a booster because it's really a third dose for those who can't mount an effective immune response. And what we're going to see from CDC today is basically formulating guidance for doctors and patients on how and who should be receiving this third dose. And it's really important because what we've seen is breakthrough infections, especially the severe ones, are happening at a greater rate in this group. And what we've seen is that third dose can really generate an effective immune response. So really good news for a small group of patients out there that could really use this help as we're seeing these surges of COVID across the country.
Yeah, so far from what I've heard from the meeting, the data looks promising. So here's my question, though, Dr. Brownstein. Do we know anything about the process? Because at this point, if this all goes through, do you just call your oncologist and go, hey, I want a third shot? Where do I send you? Do providers know that? And then an additional question here. How do you prove that you have a chronic lung condition or another disorder that would qualify you for this third shot?
So this is really going to be up to the doctor-patient relationship. And I think that's what we're going to see from the CDC, specific guidance to doctors on how they make those decisions. I do think at some level, it's going to be up to individuals to make that assessment alongside their physician. There's not a lot of checking that's happening. I mean, We actually came up with some data that showed that over 1 million people have already gotten that third shot. So there's some self-selection that's happening in the population. But I really want to emphasize that, it shouldn't be for the general population to try to see if they could get that third dose. What we see so far is boosters are not going to be available for everyone, and we really shouldn't be seeking them out. We're seeing that these vaccines are incredibly effective for those who can mount an effective immune response. They protect against severe illness and death, and it's really about making sure it's the unvaccinated are getting these vaccines. So let's save these third doses for those who are, truly have underlying conditions. For the rest of us, we should be really, enthusiastic about how these vaccines are working in the real world.
Yeah, I think that's a good point of clarification. All right, let's shift gears here to back to school. To mask or not to mask our kiddos, because I know you're a parent as well. Here in Texas, we've got some school districts that are requiring it, some school districts that say, it's up to you. If we have some kids wearing them and others not, is that effective?
What we're seeing more and more is that masking is one part of an effective strategy to control COVID in schools. Our primary focus needs to be getting our kids in-person learning and not to be in a situation where we see an outbreak or super spreading event in a school that ultimately shuts it down. And that's what I'm worried, especially in places that are seeing surges. Texas is feeling the brunt of it right now. You send kids without masks and proper controls in schools, you will get infections spread, and ultimately you will get classes shut down. And so, masking is a very simple, effective tool: social distancing, podding, testing, and of course, immunization for those who are eligible. The 12 and older can get the vaccine. The adults, the teachers in those schools, that is really our major tool to essentially cocooning those kids that are not yet eligible for the vaccine.
Yeah, and you mentioned testing, and this is a big topic that I think we're not really talking about enough, because a lot of people are requiring testing at this point, and testing is running short. I do want to mention, though, since you're in the children's hospital realm, the pediatric realm, with these pediatric ICUs filling up, what is happening? I know the numbers are fluid. Inside hospitals, I've talked to several people who say, look, we're trying to discharge patients as fast as we can, meaning the ones who are there really need to be there. Do we have any idea of who is being hospitalized in these pediatric populations? So far, I've heard a lot of teenagers and children who would qualify as obese, but I don't really have solid numbers on that.
We don't fully understand. There's, of course, a large fraction of those patients that have underlying conditions, and that could be, significant, conditions like being immunocompromised, could be, underlying conditions like obesity, diabetes, but there's a large portion of kids in hospitals that are otherwise healthy. And, while we don't fully know whether Delta is more severe for kids, just having this level of community transmission, the virus will find people that are unvaccinated. And unfortunately, our vulnerable kids that are yet to be eligible are going to be essentially feeling the brunt. And again, this is why the pressure is on for the unvaccinated adults to get vaccinated to protect the kids. But yes, it's a virus that can impact a wide range of kids. We're seeing, numbers that we have not seen throughout the pandemic. Kids in hospitals is great, actually greater than any other time during the pandemic. This is why it's so important for us to be putting in these controls in place, and of course, protecting our kids in schools to be able to keep them in those environments.
All right, Dr. John Brownstein, thanks as always.
Thanks so much.